Hi, everybody. So we'll give it one more minute before getting started. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the April PAG meeting. Thank you for making the time to be here. And as always, I will hand it over to Desiree.
Thanks, Paula. Sorry, I'm just getting my screen set up. If you could just give me 1 second.
Sure.
That would be great. Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Paula. Good afternoon, everyone. As always, my name is Desiree Gazzo. I am Community Engagement Representative for HNTB Lero, the PMCM Program Management Construction Management team on the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Project. I'm joined here tonight by some DDC folks and members of our team to present to you for meeting 32 of the CAG. So let me share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, Paula, can I get a thumbs up? Great, thank you. All right, and I keep getting these. Can you see this like thing that popped up that says to admit people on Zoom? Okay, great. I just want to make sure it's not showing through the presentation.
No,
all right,
no.
Okay, great. So, project area overview. Again, as we all know, at this point, we have all 3 projects at some level of construction at this point. The focus area topics for this presentation will be basically almost all of the areas except for the park amenities. And then we're going to start off with a quarterly update from Trang of Bowie Studios. So I believe Trang is on. Yes.
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, great. Thanks, Trang.
Hi, everyone. We're back to give you our quarterly update on our progress toward the MWBE Section 3 and local hiring goals. And the data we're showing you here is as of the end of February, since there is a lag with the reporting from the large teams on the construction side. So we'll start with the PMCM team, which is the HNTB Lero joint venture. And some of our new hires that are featured here, we just wanted to call out that, again, the team was selected coming in with an existing staff. So that's explains why the number of new hires are just as a percentage of the total staff that's working on the program. And then also just wanted to highlight that there are staff that are working on both the PA1 and PA2. And like all the previous presentations we've done to you, we're very proud of the makeup of our team in terms of the diversity and the utilization from our MWBE subs, which is at over 40%. And especially on the females working on this program, we are at almost 25%, which is more than triple the industry average for women in construction management. So we're very proud of that. And even with the ramp up, we've been able to maintain that percentage. Moving on to the contractors, the top number is the combined contractor teams for both PA1 and PA2. And again, just like the PMCM team, the existing staff is around 60 to 65%. And so that explains the number of new hires are coming on board. They are, again, doing very well in terms of using their, having a diverse workforce that's in the low 40s. And then also, yes, we have a slide for the question that just popped up on the screen. Again, on the female hiring, they're both under 3%, and their federal goal is at 6.9%. So they know that there's areas that they could work on to improve. Moving on to the next slide. So current progress toward the goals. There are different goals for each entity for each segment. So the PMCM team has 2 different goals for PA1 and PA2. And right now we're projecting to meet both, on track to do that. IPC for PA1, they're projecting to exceed their goal right now. And as we verify payments, we'll be able to move on from just the projection to some of the confirmed values. And the same thing for Perfetto. Perfetto is looking to exceed their 12% goal by almost by another 4%. So we're hoping that that stays to be the trend, and the actual payments bear that out. In terms of Section 3 hires, we're making progress slowly, but we are making progress on the Section 3 hires for all teams. There are existing job postings on the website right now for IPC's project, and then the HNTB Lyra team also has several postings. Next slide. And this is the slide we added based on comments from the last meeting to show residency. So some caveats with this. Again, all team members came in with a large percentage of existing staff. So that kind of set the foundation for some of our starting numbers. And then in terms of new hires for the PMCM team, we're getting resumes from locals and from around the city. But again, due to the specific requirements needed for the program, not all the candidates who are local and who applied have met the requirements. But we do take their information. Some we do screen and try to refer them to other programs. Same thing with the trade workers on the union side. They're hiring from the hall. So there is both contracting teams have sent letters to the locals to tell them that there is a preference for local hiring, Section 3 individuals. But again, it's what they have that's coming from the hall that they're at the mercy of hiring for. So that's where our numbers are in terms of residency. Some of our ongoing good faith efforts to meet the goals. We're continuing with the outreach. The GCs are doing their their notifications to the labor unions. We're coordinating with DDC's ODIR in collaboration with Small Business Services, their Workforce One programs, and also the Henry Street Settlement. And since we have active postings on the website, we've given all of our partners those listings, and we're also attending job fairs. This is just a reminder of all the goals that we have related to this contract for both PA1 and PA2. And so because last week or 2 weeks ago, we went to a Workforce One event for hiring. We've been coordinating with Henry Street Settlement to show up at their job fairs every month. So the next one is on May 25th. And we're giving them the job postings ahead of time so they could do their outreach to try to get us qualified candidates who meet the criteria. And I think there was another pop-up question. And Desiree, I believe these presentations are posted on the ESCR website?
Yes. Yep, there's a CAG page and they're posted on that page, yes. And then this resource fair will also be posted to the Work With Us page as well. So I think, Paula, if there are any questions.
Okay, yeah, I was just about to say, Trevor, do you have a question?
Yes, for this particular section. I think that whenever there's a project of this size in the community, a lot of folks really expect more robust numbers in terms of local hiring. And we've seen it for a lot of projects. And in my experience, I really haven't seen any high numbers when it comes to construction projects. I know there are a lot of requirements, especially for the union type jobs and the ones that pay a lot more. But my question to you, with your firm's experience, is what can we do as a community to increase these numbers? I know that there are certain requirements that people need before they can qualify for jobs. But in your experience, how is that done? And there's two major projects going on, and the numbers are probably fairly low. But we also see other construction projects that don't seem to pick up the high numbers. So the question is, like, what can we do as a community, or what do you think should be done in advance so we can get higher numbers?
That's a great question. It's something that we're constantly asking ourselves to see what we could do better. But for this program, I think all of the stakeholders and the community partners that we've had, you have all been great with the interest you've taken and helping us get the word out. A lot of the challenges, like you said, is with the union hires. So we have limited control over that. And then on this program, it's also, there are limited non-trade opportunities that aren't technical, that don't require technical expertise or entry level. So we've maximized where we can, and that's where you've seen the local hire, the Section 3 hires, where we can get folks that are doing more of the construction management support, and hopefully on some of the duration of these programs, if folks get involved in the project, or if there's, I think a good example that I could give you is the existing inspector positions that we have, or the assistant office engineer or office engineer positions. Some of them require certain certifications to even meet the minimum qualifications for those interviews. So this is what we're working on in DDC. ODIR is talking to us about this, that if we actually start focusing on training potential to get folks aware of the types of certification that you need to qualify on these, that's some advanced work that we might be able to do to get more qualified candidates to come on board. Because if you're an inspector, you might have the number of years of experience, but maybe not the specific requirements in terms of the certifications. So that's something that we could raise awareness for, and maybe prepare and give some advance notice, or start developing that now. So we've been talking to folks at Lesson because I think initially we talked about potentially just doing the OSHA 10 training, but if there was an opportunity to go into some of the other certifications as part of their offerings or some of their partners that's in the group, that's something we could look at to see if we could expand the pool.
Sure, it's great because you have a heck of a lineup of partners. I mean, with Henry Street, Betty Cantor, Lesson, and the whole group of people who are involved with Lesson. I'm just trying to think of what we can do. And most of this is training and qualifications so that when these projects come into the pipeline, we already have people who are ready to go. I know one of them is, sponsoring unionship positions, but that takes some time and it's got to be done before the project starts. But I think I'd like to see, unfortunately, I don't know how late it is. I mean, the project's already in progress, but to see if we can figure out a way to make sure that we're able to get folks in these types of jobs.
Absolutely. And again, if we see candidates who have the right background, but if the certifications aren't there, we're also referring them to other team members who might be hiring on other programs. I know I have
Sure.
looked at candidates. So, we get the inquiries, we get the submissions. If they're qualified for this program, that they go into that pool. But if they're similar experience or their experiences is relevant on other projects that are active with any of our other team members, we also try to refer them over.
Sure, and I'm going to see because I see a stack of at least 3 people, so I'm done. Thanks.
Thanks, Trevor. Wendy, you're next.
It's just really disconcerting. This is one of the commitments made to the community, and yet you have 10 times more new hires just from Long Island than you do from Manhattan. And we don't know if those are Sandy impacted areas or not, and 20 times more from in the trades. So it's just a comment, but now we're talking about something that should have happened before this all began. And it just seems really a good example of the planning that's gone into this.
Frank?
How you doing, everybody? Hey, Trang. I just have a quick question on if you can just elaborate a little bit more on the Sandy recovery hiring and just I guess, well, one of my questions with that is when it's written like encouraged to employ, is there any teeth to that? And I'm just wondering, is that Sandy like all over New York City? Or I hadn't noticed that before, so I was curious to hear a little bit more about that.
Well, the Sandy hiring also overlaps with some of the, in this case, with the local hiring as well.
Oh, so it's overlapping.
Right, with the higher NYC and Section 3, right? Because a lot of them have the overlaps of giving opportunities to local, minority, women, low to very low income individuals. So, we think that there's, in this case, because the project site is also Sandy impacted, and it's also local, and it also applies to the Section 3 local area. We have the benefit of candidates who would actually fit in all of those categories. Got it.
So it's not in addition, it's overlapping with these other percentages and goals. Okay, thanks.
Right. So just like, and even for subcontracting opportunities, right? If you take myself, I'm based in the Lower East Side, I'm a minority woman-owned business, and also local, right? So it's not in addition to, so there are a lot of overlaps.
Okay, thanks.
Damaris.
Hi. So yeah, I want to follow up on what Frank just said. I'm a little bit confused. I get that there's not overlap, but the numbers are still pretty stark in the amount of hires that are occurring around for candidates that don't live in the neighborhood. So that doesn't feel like it's in the spirit or honoring what we agreed to. And I do want to say that as a member of Lesson, a founding member of Lesson, and a workforce a development site ourselves, and having had some level of conversations with this team, we're not even on the flyer, and OSHA and those trainings are things that Goals has been doing and has trained hundreds of people on. So I don't know. I really don't know who's talking to who, and it all just seems pretty convoluted, and I'm just disappointed in the outcome of it.
Well, I'm sorry that you're not seeing some of the participation, but we've been coordinating with, I believe it's George from your team, and we've had successes on some of the larger events where we did the in-person or the virtual job fairs, where we brought in all of the partners to talk about career pathways, to talk about potential training, and also directing folks to apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs with all of our other partners, with Workforce One, SBS, and others. So we'll revisit that to see the circulation list, and then also to see where the sponsorships, where some of the partners should be highlighted. But the flyers that we have from these job fairs, we're participating with, like, Henry Street Settlement or Workforce One, who actually already have their events set up already. But we're absolutely open to, if we're doing some sponsorships on where we initiate them, we could absolutely add more partners and list Goals and any other partners who would like to participate and take a lead or service in a sponsorship role to highlight it.
Well, I mean, I just want to say that's less important to me than it is more important to know what are all of the events. And I guess I referenced that because we had been talking with I guess some folks on your team, and I hadn't seen very much activity. So I know that, we have not been there. I know there was an event or two, but for the duration of this project and for the amount of hires, it just doesn't add up. So I've got to say that in this instance, I feel like folks have not done the best that they could by our community.
Damaris, can we have a call with you and your team at Goals and
I'm
talk?
happy to do that. Sure, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. So then I think that would be a good next step from this, so we could work through maybe, we could attend existing events that you have and we can collaborate on an event. I think that would be a great idea.
Okay, we're open to it, but I just want to stress again, it's a lot less about the events as it is. I guess I'm just referencing that there's a lack of, and so those numbers that I'm hearing, I guess I'm saying those are disturbing to me because I don't feel like there's a lot of local activity. So maybe when we talk, you guys could give us a little bit of an update of that on that, so we are not out there spreading misinformation.
Robin.
Hi, thanks. I mean, looking at the numbers I'm looking at right now, 30% new hires, 2% non-construction contracts, 10% construction, perhaps there's a way to also look at the kinds of jobs that are being filled and what the qualifications are for those jobs. And perhaps there could be some monies put towards jobs that creating some new kinds of jobs, neighborhood docents, other kinds of jobs where people from the neighborhood could be involved. If they don't reach and all that, which I think is great. And Damaris, I think what you're saying is great. Everyone else here, but also thinking about other jobs that could be created that are needs for the community. Docents, for example, people to help, with traffic, answering questions, because I know that there's a couple of people on this team that do that. Certainly the Parks Department isn't doing that. So I don't know if that's possible to think about that, but I'm sure that there'll be some money put towards some more non-construction jobs as well.
Thanks, Robin.
Any other questions for this hiring section? Okay, Desiree. Oh, wait, Wendy.
Wendy have a new, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I just I just looked up the commitment and I put it in the chat, and it says that including 30% of all new hires to be low and very low income persons, including NYCHA residents. Trayan, are you collecting data on who lives at NYCHA among the hires? And can we see that in a chart?
We, as part of the onboarding process for all the team members, there is a Section 3 self-certification, and it's a voluntary form that folks fill out. And the assumption is one of the questions is do you live in public housing? And if someone checks that off, then they qualify as a Section 3 person. And the other criteria,
even if they live on Long Island or New Jersey?
No. So if they check off that they live in public housing, they're considered a Section 3 individual. And if they do not, the other criteria is by income. So they could live anywhere, but if their income, let's say for an individual is below 65,000, I'm just using an example number, then that's a Section 3 person. And then for a household of 2, of 4, of 10, there are income limits where if you're above that, then you're not a Section 3 individual, but below you are. So that's the 2 criteria, but those forms are voluntary, and most of the time individuals will fill it out so that we have, so that's how the employers report their data to us, but it's not mandatory. So we do the best we can with the data that we receive.
And do you share that data?
No, it's confidential. So so we have to keep it in case there is a HUD audit, but we just report out the number of Section 3 individuals that have self-identified to us.
And what might trigger a HUD audit?
It just depends on their visit. If they think the documentation is complete or meets their criteria.
Thank you.
Okay, Desiree, I guess we can move on.
Great.
Right.
Thank you, Trang. Okay. Oh, all right. So we have some really great news. We have a new community construction liaison who has joined for Project Area 1. I'd like to introduce Vanessa Gomez. She's the newest member of our team of CCLs. She has a background in media and has been working in the field as a proud member of Local Union 1010, working on excavation projects throughout New York City. So we're really excited to have her here. She has a lot of field experience, and again, she's going to be, great on the project. So Vanessa, if you want to just say hello and introduce yourself.
Yeah, of course. I hope everyone can hear me okay. But good afternoon, everyone. Let me formally introduce myself. My name is Vanessa Gomez. And as you can see in the slide in front of you, I am the newest CCL. I'll be working alongside Joyce for Area 1 of the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Project. We're here to continue to provide you with any project updates, information, assistance. So I'm excited to be on board, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone. I'll take it back to Desiree.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Vanessa. So just as we move forward with the project, you'll see now Joyce and Vanessa's names on a lot of the, information that that we send out on the advisories and bulletin, etc. Vanessa is still getting caught up with all of the intricacies of the project. So again, if you do reach out to her, please be patient, with getting a response, etc. Because again, she is very new to the project, but we're looking to bring her up to speed as soon as possible, and get her out on site and learning about the construction, etc. So we're, again, really excited to introduce her. And as always, we have Joyce on Project Area 1, Nadine on Project Area 2, and Tanya on Parallel Conveyance. Oops. Okay, so really quickly,
Sorry, Desiree, I think Wendy has a question for that.
Thanks. I'm just wondering, Vanessa, are you local? Do you live in the neighborhood?
Hi, Wendy. Yes, actually, I live in Uptown Manhattan.
Uptown Manhattan. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Are there any other questions or that's it? Wendy, Wendy took her hand down. Okay, great. Okay, great. So just we have a new renderings board at East Houston Street. We have posted the signage that was the some of the informational mesh panels that we had originally had up around the park that had been vandalized. So we posted them to the board here. We're going to be, we're going to look to add, you keep changing this to show different renderings of the project. But we just added that alongside the bulletins and advisories in this location to give people a sense of, again, what the new park will look like. For Earth Day, we were out tabling and we provided a coloring project for some of the children that were at the Hamilton Fish, and it was a really great day. The weather was beautiful. We were inside the park and then outside on the sidewalk as well. And then you could see to the left some of the coloring that the children did there. So again, we're going to be picking up the tabling activities throughout the neighborhood. I know we received some suggestions over the winter, so we're going to look to again be out in the community a bit more. And again, if folks want us to attend tenant association meetings or a table, at their buildings or locations, please reach out to us. We are available to attend meetings and provide more information. So again, we'll take all the locations that we have into consideration. So quickly, we're going to go through some construction updates. For overview of contracts, honestly, most of the work in Project Area 1 and Project Area 2 is, relatively the same. For parallel conveyance, the subsurface investigations are in progress, test pits, etc. And we will be beginning water main replacements, in the near future. If you haven't looked at the PA1 and PA2 galleries, we do try and update them with the photos that we have here in the presentations. For early 2023 construction activities for Project Area 1, again, most of the construction activities within the areas that we've had are consistent. We have the flood wall work in the southern portion here. We have again, soil stabilization, combi wall, deep sewer activities are really, moving along, as well as the esplanade removal. I have a photo of the wick drain installation as we move through the presentation. And then the new work tasks that we will be starting is the demolition of the East Houston Street retaining wall. We've had that on on the kind of look ahead since last year as an upcoming activity. So that will be starting here in the near future, the week of May 8th. So they're going to start in that area, and the pedestrian circulation is just going to change a bit in that area. So here's that. So the pedestrian access, again, instead of coming down the ramp and headed south, for now, we will have to come to the north so that the lower area or the southern area of the ramp can be demolished. The field number 6 will now have access. Originally, there was an access point at field 3 and not at field 6 because this area was all closed. So some of the circulation will change just a little bit on the southern portion here. But the park amenities will not be impacted. For some of the construction photos, this is the installation of the combi wall along the water. And again, it's like a combination wall. So it's the sheet piles and then the kind of green, the tube or pipe piles. And then this is the wick drain installation. And Wendy, I think you had asked last CAG meeting if the wick drains stay in the soil, and yes, they do stay in the soil. So the process is that the wick drains again pull the moisture from the soil to a like a sand layer where the moisture can then dissipate, and it helps with the compaction. So the fill material to raise the park will be placed on top of the wick drains, and as it is compacting, it will aid in that compaction process by again helping the moisture escape from the lower levels of the soil levels here. So we did find that out, and this is some of the photos of the wick drain installation here. What we've heard for PA1, again, we went over the wick drain installation. For the Montgomery Street lighting, excuse me, I'll delete that. We are looking into the Montgomery Street lighting, both for PA1 and for BMCR as well. So we will follow up on that. For air quality and construction vehicles at Montgomery Street, there are, I know this was a question at the last CAG, there are a number of contributing factors at this location, and we really can't point the particulate matter to one source. Several instances have been contributed to specific work operations, and we've coordinated that with other projects or our project, whomever that work activity has been. So then mitigation was applied, etc. For the archaeology update, the field investigation work is just about to wrap up, and construction is scheduled to begin summer of 2023. The coordination and final reporting is still ongoing with the city historic agencies that are reviewing that work. And then for pedestrian signage, we are still coordinating with New York City DOT on additional signage at East 10th Street and Delancey Street. We're gonna just go through the presentation. We won't stop in between and then just answer questions at the end. For PA2 construction progress, as we are aware, the Astor Levy Playground is open, flood wall, and the floodgate number 18 is installed. For the East 23rd Street intersection, the flood wall, curb, and sidewalk construction is ongoing, and the gate installation will happen in the spring of this year. Stuyvesant Cove Park, north of East 20th Street, the Greenway is open, and the northern portion is anticipated to reopen at the end of May. So we are very excited about that. Then the landscape iron rail fabrication is in process. And then Stuyvesant Cove Park, south of East 20th Street, is the ongoing flood wall construction and some of the site restoration there as well. The ferry terminal access has been shifted to East 20th Street. So now you can walk along the water in the partially restored portion of the southern part of Stuyvesant Cove Park. So it gives you a sense of what the park will be like once it is open. Again, that southern portion still needs to be planted in the fall. And then once it's planted and completed, then we could open the southern portion as well. At East 15th Street between Avenue C and FDR Drive within the Con Edison, the sewer replacement there is on hold. Murphy Brothers Playground is very much so under construction, and they are moving right along with the flood wall construction and pile installation, as well as along the southbound shoulder of East 16th Street. The sewer work is continuing there. Just a reminder of the current Greenway access and the, again, disconnect between PA2 and PA1 which again, we are anticipating to reopen sometime in summer 2023. A few photos. This is the new ferry terminal access. So you could see that you could walk along the water now, and a good portion of that southern part of Stuyvesant Cove Park is open. The seat walls are there, and the pavement is down. The sea rail is completed as well. So they are moving right along with that. For the environmental reporting update, the monitoring locations are in the same locations as they have been. Should there be any updates, we'll let you know about that. For the March 2023 update, the majority of the alerts that we received were, again, short durations, about 15 to 25 minutes, and then we received one a bit longer duration. Again, the 24-hour TWA was not exceeded for this work, and then mitigation was applied. Again, most of it was construction activities causing dust, and then dust suppression techniques were applied. Just to note that there were not any alerts received at the East 10th Street location. That was a new area that we pulled out. Wendy, we did try and incorporate some of the comments that you had on these from last month. And again, this is kind of a new way that we're reporting the AQM data. So we will, again, keep reviewing, we'll go back to review some of the other comments that you had. But again, I think we did incorporate some of them. For the monitoring locations for project area 2, again, are here in blue. And for the March 2023 update, again, just a couple of alerts were received. Most were, again, within the 5-minute range here, and then we had 2 that were just above that. But again, one of them was related to non-construction activities. And then the last, we just have 2 more slides for parallel conveyance. Again, the parallel conveyance, since it is much different than the other projects as far as its the amount of locations that parallel conveyance takes up, we've made general areas for each location. The work again is scheduled to start from the south, and then we'll move into the northern area kind of as the work proceeds. So for Jackson Street and Water Street, Area 1, the water main replacement will begin in the near future. Again, an advisory will be provided once that work is scheduled to begin with the utility relocation as well. The test pits have been completed for now in location 2. I know we've been sending out the limited parking or no parking advisories, quite a few for parallel conveyance. Again, parallel conveyance is a much different project than PA1 and PA2 because it is primarily work within the street and not work within closed parks. So there will be a significant number of limitations to parking or potential short-term kind of sidewalk detours or lane shifts for parallel conveyance for the work that we're doing there. So please feel free to reach out to our CCL there or to the inquiry tool if you do have any questions. For location 3, the test pit operations will begin for that location coming up. And then they will continue in location 4 as well, and 5 in the northern area, which again, that we won't be moving into construction in that area. It's just the preliminary project area survey and test pit operation work. And then just a bit on the typical construction sequencing, which we've gone over before. The majority of the work here is similar. However, with locations with the interceptor gate chamber buildings, we have that deep excavation, which we're not at that point just yet. And now we can respond to questions. And sorry, we went straight through. I just wanted to make sure we have enough time because we're coming up on close because we had the conversation about the hiring in the beginning.
Yeah, so Frank.
Thanks, Paul. Hey, Desiree, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good. I'm asking about the piles of like along the FDR, right north of Montgomery, near alongside Pier 42. There hasn't been much activity at all for a while, and I'm wondering if there's a reason for it, and what the projection is for when those piles are going to continue.
Yeah, Frank, that's a great question, and I could find out more on that. The issue, or not issue, but I guess the existing condition there is that with the Pier 42 work happening on one side and then the piles happening kind of on the other side, the area is a little tight there. So I believe the contractor did kind of what they could do for now. And then as access kind of opens up and different, as different work completes with Pier 42, they'll be able to move back into that area, but that should start up in the near future again.
Okay, got it. So at least I feel better
Like
knowing
that's the pinch point of the project over there.
Yeah, and then my other question is, if you can just take it back, we're very anxious to move forward from Gouverneur Gardens' perspective with the flood wall implementation.
Okay.
And it's just taking way too long on the city side to get back to us. So I'll be doing other channels to apply some pressure, but I'm asking if you can also just take that back, please.
Yes, will do. I noted it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Wendy.
So first, where's the construction schedule? We were promised an update this month, and we haven't seen it since February.
Yes, so that is going to be coming next month.
Is any of the south part of the park opening in 2023?
So right now, the construction schedule is as it has been, and we are working on updates for next month.
Got it. And you mentioned when you were talking, I think it was slide 27 or 28, 17 or 18, park amenities are not impacted. What about the trees that remain around field number 3? There's mature trees there. You're taking down the greenway. Maybe it's the next slide. What is happening with the trees that are around field number 3? There's London Plains and Oaks.
Yes, right along here.
Yes.
So I know, so the ramp demolition is on the opposite side of the fields. It's right on the FDR side. So I'm not sure if the trees will be impacted there when they do the demolition. So I'll have to check in on that, the trees across.
Those are important amenities to people in the community. And there's wildlife in them, there's bird song, and it actually makes a difference. So it would be very good to protect those trees. And my last question is about number 17. You show barge activity off the, right near the number 17, right off the, you could see barge activity out in the water. What are they doing?
So a lot of the esplanade demolition happens from the barge. A lot of that work is from the water side and not from the land side. It's a bit of both, but the barge activity is significant right now for the demolition of the esplanade. And I think right now that's the majority of the barge work. In the past, it was taking out materials, and then for the when we did the stone columns, it brought in all of the stone for the stone column materials as well.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I do have one more. It's about the parallel conveyance. I know you said it starts in the south and it's working north. When will it be on Avenue D? And I'm asking because I went to the Reese House hearing about arsenic the other day, And there was nothing discussed about the forthcoming construction there or the 10th Street Bridge or later the Pinch Point Bridge. When will it come up to Avenue D, especially around 10th and 11th, where there's remediation going on for the arsenic?
So parallel conveyance, so the parallel conveyance work that was in the parallel conveyance package. So the utility upgrades that are happening at East 10th Street are under the project area 1 now. So it is part of the parallel conveyance system, but that work was bundled into project area 1 because they already had work happening in that area. So for the parallel conveyance team, it's just these areas here. And then the parallel conveyance work that is happening at East 10th Street under the project area 1 contract. I have to go back and look at the schedule for that. We presented to Nitra Reese and we presented kind of an overview of the timeline for that work. So I have to get back to you on that because I don't want to misspeak, but I can send that over to Paula and Tara to share.
I'd really appreciate it. It's actually coming before the Transportation Committee of CB3 on May 9th. So it would be good to know before then, what are the plans for that area? Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next is Diane.
Hello, Desiree. Can you go back to the slide that shows the new routing at Houston Street, please?
Oops. A lot of slides today.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yep.
yeah, this is good. This one. So I have some questions about this. So it looks like, although there will be an entry point at Field 6, you'll also be able to connect into the park past that, where the grove of trees is. I'm pointing at the screen like you can see
here.
me.
Over here.
Yeah, in the back there. Yes, exactly. That used to be
the red dots are the access points. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So okay. You won't be able to turn into the park there.
No, not oh wait. Sorry, here again.
So back up. Go to the arrows that are somebody walking down from the north. Yeah, keep going to where the final arrow is, right there. Yes, great. So before the fences were up, you could turn, right? And there's an east-west path going through there, through the grove of trees, that's between the field and the ball field and the track and field. Will you be able to do that or not?
Here,
yeah,
towards the water. Yeah, this will all be. This hasn't changed. This
right.
isn't changed here.
But right now you can't get from the greenway into that space.
It's going to open here.
Okay, great. That was my question. Okay,
yeah, so you'll open up the greenway here.
Got it. Okay.
From Houston. Yep.
Yeah. So my other question about that is that I know right in that same area is one of the slip ramps.
Yes.
And so how will the safety be managed there?
Yeah. So there will be a flagger person there. At one point, there was a flagger that was always kind of at the Houston Street. Yes. So that person or a different person that also has flagging capabilities will return either. And again, that was one of the questions that I asked as well. But I think they're still working out the details if it would be kind of as the trucks or vehicles are actively using the slip ramp, or that person will be there kind of throughout the day as they were the last time. I also know there have been, because the slip ramp gate is open here and that person isn't there have been some some signage issues, and people have been kind of walking in there. So we're working on that too. So we're kind of, as this area is changing a little bit, and we're working on, again, increased signage here and just making sure everybody knows what is happening in this area, and where to go. And now with the increase in people in the summer, so our CCLs have been walking that area a bit more to try and troubleshoot some of the issues. And we've been talking through that with the construction team as well.
Okay, great. So yeah, that was my main concern, because I did a quick run through the park earlier today when the construction workers were leaving, and there's quite a lot of traffic going up that slip ramp, later in the afternoon. And as you said, because of the change in the weather, there's a lot of like school teams down there playing and kids and stuff. And so I'm glad that you guys are working through how to keep that safe.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then just to confirm, all the way at the south end of this area now by Field 3, the Esplanade will remain open, but you won't be able to turn onto that blacktop path anymore, right?
Yeah, for now, this is going to stay closed because it will just kind of present a dead end here, and there's no reason to come down there. There's no way to access Field 3 there, so right now it just doesn't make sense to keep that as, kind of a dead space on the area, since you can't do the full loop there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, go ahead.
Oops, sorry, it just is more of a safety concern, not create a weird space.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just making sure I understand. And then finally, so the demolition of the retaining wall and the new retaining wall, I know I've asked about this before, and I still don't fully understand what's going on there. So next time, could we talk a little bit more about what that looks like and what is actually going to happen there?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
Do that. Make that one of our technical highlights that we have sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, it would be good to understand what's happening there. All right. Thank you.
Okay, next on the stack is Sandra.
Good afternoon. You noted that the C rail is almost complete in area 2. Do you know if it's going to have the openings in it that we asked for?
Hi, Sandy. So I did bring the questions that you had back, and from what I heard, it sounds like at this point the C rails will not have the openings in them. Again, not sure how those decisions were made, but at this point, and I guess through our contract, it doesn't look like they will get the openings. They did say that there would be openings in the iron rails, I think, as part of the this contract, but the water access, I think, has been determined not to move forward, again, as part of this contract.
Do you know who we contact to make sure it gets done in some contract, how that would work?
I think the decision was made by EDC.
EDC,
So it sounds like EDC would be the holder of that decision making.
Okay. And I had some very specific questions that I think you're working on, but we don't need to go into them, like the bioswales and the trees and etc.
Parks is following up on those, and Paula and I have reached out to Parks also to follow up on those. And then I am the kind of plaza area is in my ball court, and then I'll get back to you on that.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, and it looks like we have one more question from Robin.
No, I just have a comment, which is the flagger job that you mentioned.
Oh.
That sounds like a great job for local people. Community.
Sorry, but I was on staff too.
Oh, I'm sorry, Christine. I somehow thought you took yourself off stack.
No, I
but go
didn't.
ahead. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, Desiree. How are you?
Okay, how are you? Thanks, Christine. We haven't seen you in a while.
Well, I've been around. But I really question my time here because I'm deeply disappointed that, again, each month we're hearing about the real construction updates and where we stand. DDC and your team to work a little bit harder on really making us understand how the construction is going and what the timelines will be. I think you owe that to the community at that point, and we've been asking for that for half a year now, and we're not getting any straight answers. And I know it's not your fault. I just want to publicly opinionate this. And also this entrance on East Houston Street that's very heavily used. I feel it's really a recipe for disaster. How pedestrians and bicyclists and park users in general have to share this what used to be the Greenway with heavy construction vehicles that really speed up to get onto the highway. I'm really very much concerned about that, and I hope you find really good solutions for it. Right now, it's a very laissez-faire attitude somehow with this construction, because all the gates are left constantly open and joggers go all the way up there. And I mean, great, you know, these are adults. I'm sure they're not going to jog onto the highway, but you know, it doesn't feel like people take care of what they should be taking care of. It's sort of like, whatever, we'll leave the gate open. I hope that attitude will not prevail once we have park users forced walking there and lots of vehicles going, leaving work for the day and wanting to speed home. I think it's just not a good combination. I also would say that this closure of that Blacktop Road, and I never thought I would love a Blacktop Road that much in a park, is really a setback again for park use. And I also want to point out that there is an access point to Field 3 that's facing west, right on the corner there of where on the other side, on top, yeah. Yeah, it's right in the corner. It's not even where you're pointing. It's right in the corner. And I would at least put the request in whether people can think about leaving that blacktop open, and then for people to at least circle up and then go into the ball field. It's about circular movement. You know, when you're a park user, just going someplace and coming to a dead end and going back is sort of not exactly a great experience. And if you leave that open, then at least people can circle back another way.
Yeah, I think the concern there was that, you know, again, we'll definitely bring that back. And I think that would be coordinated with parks as well, because I think once these fields are in active use, I know in the winter they're pretty empty, but if people are running and jogging, and I don't think they would want them kind of running through the ball fields here while games are in session, but we can definitely kind of coordinate that with parks. And again, we did have the conversation with the construction team about the gates, so we'll continue to follow up on that and some of your other comments as well. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Desiree, I know you have to run. Do you have time for, I see one more question.
Yeah. Yep, as long as Trevor's the last one, then that's good.
Okay. Go ahead, Trevor.
Mine is quick because I'm looking through this presentation. Desiree, the opening that Sandra mentioned in the fence, was that part of the original design, or is it a suggestion for a new opening?
In the C rail or in the landscape kind of iron rail fences?
I wasn't sure what Sandra was referring to, but you answered it, so I'm curious as to whether it was in the original design.
The C rail, so the C rail that's here, there were two requests, I think, from EDC and Solar One and or the community. Again, I'm not in all the conversations, so I'm not 100% sure where the exact request came from, but there was a request to have gates in the C rail here along Stuyvesant Cove Park to provide kind of kayak access or water access in this area. This is something that has been explored. I think it was also explored in the design phase, and I remember it coming up early on in the project. Some of the local kayak groups also expressed interest for it, but it was determined that this area of the river isn't really safe for that. There's a lot of, between the ferry traffic and the planes that are there, et cetera, that they can't move forward with the water access here. So that was not in the contract. And then the other thing is there's small, and you can't see them in these pictures, but along the landscaped areas, there are iron rails. They're very simple, standard parks detail that kind of separates pedestrians from the planting beds. And I think the request was to have some of the iron rails either have like an opening or a little gate, so that way Solar One can maintain those areas. So it seems that that was able to be incorporated as a into the fabrication of the rails.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Desiree.
Great, thank you so much. And as always, if anyone has any additional questions, please feel free to send them to Paula and Tara. Again, I know we are working on a couple of different requests between us and Parks, and I believe DOT as well. So we will look to get you responses by the next CAG meeting. Again, if you know, and earlier if possible. Great, thanks everyone, and have a good rest of your week and weekend.
Thanks, Desiree.
Thanks.
Okay, CAG members, as we usually do, let's take a 2-minute break before we reconvene for the CAG only portion. So welcome back, everybody.
So before we go into other items, the previous portion of the meeting and discussion around that, there was something that I wanted to clear up. So I know you all are aware of they came and presented the DOT with their consultant team around the waterfront access study. And then we did do some outreach to you all because they were looking to identify some members of their neighborhood support group. Some of you I know are in that neighborhood support group. One of the members of this CAG was inadvertently listed as a representative of the CAG. This appears to be a consultant error, not anything intended to be that a CAG member was trying to represent themselves in another capacity. It seems like the consultant made this an error, and it's been cleared up. I just wanted to let you all know, we did ask DOT if they were looking for CAG representation, and they were not explicitly looking for anyone from this CAG to represent in that neighborhood support group. But we just wanted to clarify because I know that there had been some information distributed to the different members indicating that a CAG member was representing the CAG in that capacity, and that is not the case. So I just wanted to clarify that. And if there are any questions, and if you and people want more further clarification, feel free to reach out to Paula and I about this. But we just wanted to focus more on a lot of the information that we just got from Desiree and thinking through our next steps with that. So I'll let Paula start that conversation.
Yeah, so just opening up the floor if you guys want to talk about anything that you heard today.
Well, I just want to second Christina's concern about the schedule. And I think Wendy mentioned this as well. You know, this has been going on for several months now that these schedule updates keep getting pushed back. They don't happen at Community Board 3. They don't happen here. And so I think, you know, I'd like to, you know, understand what is holding that up.
Yeah,
and
I was surprised about that too.
Yeah, I
Earlier
mean,
this week when we spoke with them, they said this would be on the agenda. So I was kind of like, where is that? Yeah.
Yeah, and I had seen some other CAG members, you know, at a different event, and I encouraged them to come today, even though they have very tight schedules, because, you know, we were supposed to get this major schedule update and then it didn't happen. So, you know, I don't know what you guys can do, but if there is a way that you can reinforce that, you know, it's high time that we got this schedule update.
Noted. Yes, we'll definitely bring it up. I'm sorry, I have not tracked who actually was next, so I will call on Marty. It was Wendy, sorry.
Hi. So following up with what Tara was saying about DOT, we all got an email just before this meeting with posters about the upcoming May 4th Zoom about this process. Please share it. It's in 3 languages. It would be great if a lot of people could respond to that, I think. Second, that about the schedule. And didn't we used to get an agenda before the meeting, like a day or 2 before? What happened?
Yeah, DDC seems to have stopped preparing that. We can bring
And
that up.
honestly, it would be the day of we would receive them.
Yeah. but now it's not even that.
But we will, that will be part of our larger conversation with them. But they had indicated to us that they would have a schedule for us to review. And yeah, this has taken us by surprise as well, because we did ask.
Thank you.
Does anyone know who's next between Frank, Dove, Marty?
I was next after Wendy. That's all I.
Okay. Okay. Cool. That's cool. Go ahead.
Thanks. Just 2 things. One is with regards to the NSG, the neighborhood study group, about the FDR and the meeting next week. I would very much encourage people who do attend, and there'll be other meetings down the line in the year, but this is my opinion, of course, but I think that we need to demand as a community a feasibility study for covering the FDR. Because this is a DOT run, it's not New York City Parks, and my understanding is that this is an agency that is very car focused, that they will not do that at all unless we as a unified community demand that, because this is not part of their agenda as I understand it. So I just wanted to highlight that fact that we should be asking for the feasibility, and then also just that should be like a major area of focus. And then secondly, with regards to these hiring updates that we've gotten now for a couple years, this is out of my wheelhouse, so I don't know if someone else here has more knowledge or understanding, but in other community groups that I'm a part of, from the very beginning, we advocated for apprenticeships or training jobs that lead to union jobs. And I don't know why that's not possible. I don't know if that's not something that is traditionally done, but if that would be the response from the city, this is the first time of a project of this scale that's ever been done. So there's so many firsts here, and I don't understand why the community's needs are being somewhat jettisoned towards the back of this so that we can get these very abysmal numbers. And then, I mean, I don't know what's happening there. I appreciate, there are times when Desiree, for example, will say like, they go to neighborhood copy shops, for the flyers, but like, that can't be it. Like, this can't be what we'd be satisfied with, because it's a joke. I mean, we're the ones who are being cut off and torn apart by this project. And, I believe in the merits of it in terms of protecting subsidized housing on the waterfront, but it just feels wrong to me. And I just don't know enough to know how, if there's someone who I would definitely conjoin with the knowledge about how to make this happen. Because one of the things that I had advocated in other groups was, even if it's not, I mean, I didn't phrase it like this, but I'm saying here, like, even if it's not a job that will lead to work within this project, it's training. Like, why can't they just put money into training programs and things that will lead to other construction jobs down the line? Because we know that this is all part of the LMCR project, which is going to be future jobs all around the city. So those are my two comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Dove?
Thank you. I just want to go and reiterate about the schedule not being, available. I mean, we originally had a schedule of matrix that was very, had a lot of clarity in there. You could clearly see when there was a delay, when something was backed up. And then I think because it was that clear is the reason why they went to a different format. So now in the new format that they were using, you wanted to see if there was something changed. You actually have to go back to a prior presentation to see what the original dates are. And yeah, I'm really not sure why, that should be something that should be present at every meeting. And that's what they said that would be at every meeting. And I wish they went back to the old format, which really did say, when was the original date that they were supposed to be done with this? Where are we now? And then we could actually say, hey, what's going on there? And it would give us a lot more clarity on where there are issues and where there are delays.
So just to clarify, not the Gantt chart format, but I think I'm trying to recall what the format was, if it was just some sort of chart. I know because we'd asked that they provide like a full-on Gantt chart. So
yeah, they had it for like 2 meetings, and then they went to, the new version. The new version doesn't give, prior information. It just shows a photo of the moment. So if the part, let's say right by Grand and FDR was supposed to open, June 1st, and they bump it up to September, no one's going to even tell unless we sit there and we have to go back and reference it. Mm-hmm. And you can't even reference it because we're in the meeting now and we're seeing it right now, and we're not getting the presentation beforehand. So we have, nothing to connect it to until after the meeting when we're trying to, recall or take out our notes and, do that, which isn't very, useful.
Yeah, we'll bring this up when we bring up this, overall general topic about the construction schedule. I think,
Yeah, I think it was me. Yeah.
Yeah, not Mary, but Marty. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm actually very happy to see that the northern part of Cypress Cove Park will be open. We're going to look to see if we can have our summer concert series. It's a little late to start planning it since we generally start the concerts in the earlier part of June, but it's gratifying to know that we're near the end of half of our project. Of course, the Stuyvesant Cove part started long before the East River Park part. Our park has been closed for over 3 years now, and I'm actually going to be getting a tour of what's going on next week, so I'll have a better idea of what the south side is going to look like. But it's unfortunately a matter of patience, and there are so many things that take quite a long time. There was a question about a flag person. That's part of the operating engineers, and it's the bottom level of when an individual goes into the operating engineers. So it would be a good starting point for a trainee. But again, it's a matter of the operating engineers opening up the positions. So it's certainly the city and EDC who are funding so many more projects could have a word with them to get that to happen.
Thanks, Marty. Damaris?
I don't really have a question. I have a request. Can somebody please forward me the data that details the hiring since the inception of the project that we've been referring to? That's all I want. Thank you. Do we know who has it?
I mean, Trang has it. I think we could also probably pull it from, we can ask Trang to pull it to send that over to us.
Well, I want that one, but I want the other stuff that
and then they also it might also be, I'm going to check right now to see if they post it, if they post it regularly. But I'm sure if it's not, it might be dug within a presentation, but we can try to see if we can undig it. But
okay, great. Thank you.
Robin.
I'm going to say two things. One, I think we're some of what we're asking for, like, is sort of out of the box thinking, and we're looking at this as a public works, and I guess we're trying to ask for changes to be made or new ways of thinking, like trainings on hiring, or let's get some of those flag people to be local people. But that's I don't know how we could get the thing out of the box, like, with keeping within how they operate. That's one thing I'm hearing, but I'd love to figure out how to do that. The other is as far as the construction timeline. I mean, I don't know if this is a silly request, but often you see all those electronic signs. I mean, if we even have something like that at the end of Grant Street, so we even know what's going on there, because it's changing all the time. And just the people who live in the community have no clue, like, now all of a sudden there's this, everything is gray. It's like, what is that gray stuff that I'm driving by and breathing in? And also we've been asking for the Parks Department to also present to us. I don't think that's happened in a long time. I don't know if any other people here notice parks work with parks people in the park that's open, but again, still any updates on all the extra fields and things that have been made, that would be great to hear from Parks Department as well. In my opinion. Also, please, if they've heard from them, please let me know.
Robin, I didn't hear the last part of what you said. I don't know if you heard it, Tara.
I just was saying, maybe I missed something, but again, the public department, we haven't heard from them. And if we have, then I take back my comment, but I haven't heard from the Parks Department on any updates from them. It'd be great to hear from them too. On how the park's being used, uses of park, what are they doing? What other fields, again, to let the community know. This is just to let you know, folks, what's going on, where we have extra places for you to go.
Yeah, I've been reaching out to parks on a few different issues. The activations question that you raised a while ago, Robin, and inquiries related to parks related commitments. And I was getting a little frustrated about my lack of response, but then I just heard from them today. And so it looks like, and she explained that she's been extra busy the last few months covering for someone who's on leave. So I'm glad she recommunicated with me today after like months of not doing so. So I hope to get some answers from them soon. Are there any other questions or comments? Wendy?
Yeah, I'm just going to stick in the chat a link to the section of the Big U's final report. It's like 250 pages, but there's a whole section about what the community felt about decking over the FDR. And I'll put that in the chat, just that section, so you can see it. It's really important. I'm, amplifying what Frank said, that we actually get the FDR studied and not just access to the park and open space. This is like happening all over the city, the BQE, the Cross Bronx, the Cross Bay. It should be happening here as well. And this is our chance to get that onto, gets the first steps towards a real study on what would it take. So I'll stick that in the chat. Thank you. Oops.
Other questions or comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on what Marty said. Hey, Marty, I think a concert series would be a great lift for the community. I'm happy to help you out. I'll connect with you offline. I think that'd be great for people to come back to the river.
Trevor?
Yeah, two things. What I'd like to see, because on a variety of construction projects, I think we wind up with the same result, but what is a realistic expectation of what we can expect for construction projects in terms of percentages? Because the numbers are appalling, but I don't know if that's representative of what other projects have, or if it's just this particular project. And there are some other projects that are going on, and it's kind of difficult to gauge that. The second thing is, and following up, Frank said that we need a feasibility study, first of all, because it's nice to talk about it, but if we don't have a feasibility study, we're going to wind up with the same result we had with the Big U, and that was it was too expensive and it would never get done under current political leadership. So we need to look at whether it's feasible or not to do. And if we're going to do that, to explore it in a more holistic way. I know that as part of the FIDAB plan, they're looking at bringing down a portion of the FDR in that section. And if we're looking at decking the FDR from Montgomery Street on, then there's a section that's missing, and this is all in an EG, environmental justice area. There's a section that's missing that would have an elevated roadway, because it would not be studied. So I think we need to look at that more holistically as opposed to segments, especially in EGA areas.
Anybody else? Damaris?
I think Trevor, did you say that you are wondering if the hiring percentages are similar in other projects? Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, and I know it's
The
kind of
local
hard.
hire percentages?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to compare because this is a large project. It's also Section 3, but I don't know if this is normal. Should we expect more?
We should expect more, and
Okay.
so first off, there are Section 3 requirements which state that 30% to the greatest extent feasible of the jobs that are created by this project should go to local residents. Primarily, when those dollars come for public housing, those would be public housing, and then there would be the surrounding neighborhoods, and it sort of goes out. Imagine it like a nucleus, and then it sort of goes out. It's not supposed to go from the Lower East Side to Long Island all the way over here, just miraculously, right? That's different. What that really means to me is that they already had staff, and they're using the staff that they have to meet the requirements that are set by this project. Right. So they have people that they can count as local hire, as NITRA, or whatever other requirements when they're reporting, because they have to report on NWBE and other. With federal money, they require you to submit these like quarterly reports. How do I know? Because I've gotten many federal grants before, and an NWBE requirement is a big one. So is a Section 3. So that's what I think is happening there. So the second thing I want to say about that is, not only are there some numbers, and yes, there is trouble with looking at Section 3 as language as a measure of enforcement, because the language itself, right, has been seen as unenforceable, and there have been many efforts throughout the years to strengthen the legislation that puts this mandate forward. Nonetheless, even the Housing Authority takes it a little more seriously and tries to make these numbers better. But the other thing is that when this project started, aside from any sort of federal mandatory requirements, there was a commitment to our community to hire locally. And so I do not believe that to the greatest extent feasible, we have done everything that we can. I'm not saying that they haven't talked to us or they haven't talked to other people, but talk is cheap and movement is serious. And we had real conversations about things that needed to happen. I'm not saying that none of it happened, but I am saying that we could have done better. This is a $1.4+ billion project, and the amount of jobs, this is just unacceptable. And everybody on this committee should feel outraged by that. Right. And again, it's not that the project isn't moving. We all have a lot of stuff, but again, the one thing that could have been done here to really move the needle in terms of another level of impact that could have been beneficial for our community was to think about the impact on our local economy and the people who are here struggling and trying to pay rent. And that wasn't made a priority, to me, is ludicrous, and I'm really upset about it.
Okay, that being said, I'm wondering what we can do, because to be honest, I've leaned on Lesson and the partners, and they all seem good and they got it taken care of. And, I'm just wondering what we can do as not only as a CAG, but a community, because I've told people, lots of people, I put up ads to go to these sort of workshops or job fairs, and the turnout's pretty low. I mean, that's not just because of the outreach, it's just the way folks are sometimes. But what can we do as a CAG, but also as community members to sort of enforce what you're talking about?
Are you asking me to respond to that right now?
No, I'm just not just in general. I'm just like, okay, what are we not doing? I guess that's my, that's just a general statement, not something that you can necessarily answer. But it seems like we should be doing something.
But I'm not going to answer it now. But I'd be happy to talk about it more with some folks on the side if we don't want to spend all of our time at this meeting. I do think there are things they can do. I've already put a call out to my staff. I have had conversations with them about with my staff about what they haven't or have done. I don't, I can come back. I would be happy to sort of do some brainstorming with folks. But I mean, again, this may all be an exercise in futility if the jobs are all, taken already.
I mean, there are a few more years to go, so I think that there's still an opportunity for us to make some to talk about this,
Thank you for pointing that out, Tara.
So we should, I know in the past, especially at the beginning of this project, we really kind of had folks who were really focused on this meet on the side. I'm happy to help facilitate another meeting around that if folks want to do that, and we can figure out what our recommendations are, present that to the CAG and then figure out next steps if we want to, if you all want, as a CAG, want to submit a letter, but also just, just get the conversation. Sorry. I'm sorry.
I mean, if I may just say something in response, I know somebody else is talking and we're hearing feedback, by the way.
Yeah. If you all can
Oh,
mute.
sorry, that's me.
Please put yourselves on mute.
Damaris, were you going to say something?
Sarah, were you done?
I'm done.
So
You can
I
go ahead.
wasn't sure if Sarah was finished, but I was also just gonna then say, yeah, I mean, if for nothing else, at least a conversation so that we can talk about what we've asked for before, see where we're at, and see what's actually feasible. And I'm, so just if you guys put that together, that would be great. Thanks.
Absolutely. And apart from you, Damaris, anyone else would like to be a part of this conversation, and I can email you all separately and set up a time? Okay, I see Robin, I see Frank. I'll reach out to Io as well, even though I know she's not here because she was in the original conversations that we were having. Anyone else? All right.
Everybody got me all riled up. Y'all better get.
No, that's what I'm saying. Let's do
volunteer to be a part of this committee.
They're still hiring, and there's still years to go. So let's work on this. So I'll reach out to you all separately to set up a time. Oh, and Natasha as well. You'd like to participate? Okay. If I'm
Okay, I think that there's some new hands raised. Diane? Or was this old?
No, I was just going to say, as someone who hasn't been in all of the, side conversations about hiring and, is just mostly listening to what's reported at the CAG, I think the question that I have is, are they also hiding behind the issue of qualifications? Because it often sounds to me like they're saying, oh, well, we had some people come to the job fair, but they don't have the right certifications or the right training, or, the networks that we're working with that are community-based may not be able to feed us the kind of candidates that have the right qualifications. And I've often thought about that community agreement that next time one of those gets created, maybe the thing to ask for is training and apprenticeship as well as actual jobs, because I feel like they always have an out. And then, as Damaris pointed out, there's probably other things going on as well. And so I just, it would be good. I don't know if I'm going to have time to participate in the committee, but next time we talk about this as a group, I'm just curious about that aspect of it and whether or not the folks who really deeply understand this feel that that's also going on. What's up?
Thanks, Diane. Robin?
Yeah, I think there's two things, right? There's the need jobs, the jobs that are defined and outlined by the construction company. But I also think that there could be jobs, and I mentioned this earlier, that we look at that list. Obviously, you don't want to create a job if there's not a job that exists, but perhaps as a community, we could say these are some things that we've seen missing, and these are some jobs we'd like you to create. And those could be, again, non-construction jobs, the flag guys or whatever, but other things that are missing that we as a community feel are important. And that could be anything from, docents, communicators, whatever we think is missing that we then bring to them for this $1.4 billion project that, they'll have to find some money for. So again, this is not a construction project on a private building. This is a public park and this is a public park, and this is a community part of a New York City Public Works project. That's something I'm suggesting. That's why I'm interested, Damaris, in being on this committee to think about outside what they consider to be the line of job.
Frank.
Excuse me, thanks. Yeah, I again concur with the idea of advocating for training, apprenticeship. In my development, we have union staff, union jobs, people will flock to. They will run to immediately. But the problem, I guess, from my vantage point is, I know in one of the more recent work fairs, because I post that information for all my residents at Gouverneur, that when I asked and followed up afterwards, they told me that one person from my development came, but it was a resume training like workshop. And what I'm just trying to highlight is that, like, I don't know what happened after that. And it feels like there needs to be more implementation, because again, if people aren't qualified right now for something, it doesn't preclude them from being qualified down the road. But I'm just really kind of trying to highlight the training aspect to all of this, because it will lead to somewhere. And yeah, again, like, people want union jobs. I know that very well. They understand the power of being in a union, but I think that we should be focusing on those kinds of activities more than, and I think that a job is a job, right? But like, if it's a low paying job that really has no like understandable future, and it's just like a one-off, I don't really know how useful that is either, frankly. So anyway, I'm really just kind of repackaging what I said before and what other people were saying, but with my own experience, again, it was sort of like, oh, okay, well, great, one person went, and it was a resume training, but like, I don't know what happened after that. Like, was that the point? They just like read over someone's resume and then thank you and bye? Like, it just seems really, it seems limp. It doesn't really seem like a full throat of, like, it doesn't seem like a well-initiated effort to get what we want. So that's it.
Wendy.
Thank you. I see Katie Loeb is here, and I wonder if the council members, other elected officials could also get involved in this. This was a commitment made by Carlina Rivera, Keith Powers, and Margaret Chin to ensure that we had employment from the neighborhood, especially low-income people. The training didn't start when it should have is one thing. But yes, there's a long way to go forward. That even the brand new CCL is not from the neighborhood, we don't know, she's been she's worked for Con Ed and stuff. She's probably not a low income person, I would assume. There's lots of places to begin on this question, and we have a long way to go on this work, as we all know. So I would hope that we can at least turn this piece around, because not only is it that the money isn't coming here, the vehicles are coming here. And all of us are seeing those numbers about the air quality, et cetera. Driving in from Long Island, Westchester, New Jersey every day definitely has an impact on our community. Even if they're not taking up parking spaces in the neighborhood, they're parking in the park. And that impacts all of us. So that's another aspect of this that we aren't accounting for.
Damaris.
Sorry. So, I mean, this is a really a much longer conversation, and we could really be here all day. But let me just say to everybody that I've worked on construction labor agreements and, union jobs, apprenticeship jobs, and very similar projects for a very, very long time. And there's so much more that this process entails. You cannot just bring in a union. There are real provisions within the city charter that prohibit us from doing things like that. I am happy when we meet, when you send out and you circulate a meeting time for us, I am happy to work with you to put together like a quick Q&A, so to help frame this conversation so that we understand what's feasible, what's not, and then where we want to put our energy and pushing, because I don't believe that because something wasn't that you can't make it, but I do believe that you have to understand the context, right? So that you have all the details you need to forge forward ahead in a much more successful way. So I'm happy to sit with you or talk with you and set up a quick, presentation that talks about like union apprenticeship programs. Sorry. And all that stuff so that it'll frame the context. If people, would like us to do that, I think it could be super helpful for us.
I do too. Thank you for your offer. That sounds great.
Okay, great.
And I get it, this like baseline of understanding of how this stuff works. Yeah. Okay. I don't see any other raised hands. But we do have 10 minutes left. Okay, well, I guess Katie from Rivera's office just put something in the chat about their support on this issue. But if no one else raises their hands, I guess I will adjourn. Thank you for a good meeting and a good. Oh, Damaris, did you want to say something? Oh, okay.
I raised my
Mark raised his
hand.
hand up.
What happened to the rest
Oh,
of our
Marty.
members? What happened to the rest of our members?
I don't
We
know.
used to
I
have
mean,
we used to have 30 some odd regular members on this committee. I mean, down to what, 15, 17? I mean, it's
I can't
sad.
think we've ever had the full 30, but we have had higher numbers. Actually, last month was pretty low. The numbers have climbed quite a bit this month compared to last month. So thanks to all who encouraged folks to attend this meeting due to, for various reasons. I know that there has been a little bit, we've lost some members just due to just shakeups, people no longer representing the groups that the residences that they live in. So trying to get folks to be replaced there, particularly also on the NYCHA side, looking for a replacement for the NYCHA representation. So we're working on those items. And then a lot of it is just people are, again, really, really stretched. So we reach out, we encourage people to come, we make sure that these videos and things are made available. We make sure that people can reach out to us if they do have any questions, if they're not able to attend. But ultimately, life. So we will continue to do the same outreach. But I think there's going to be the expectation that people are going to fall off, especially as they feel their interests are being addressed as the construction goes. So for example, perfect example, Tony, his interest is with the ball fields. So he showed up with questions, last month, he had a lot of questions about the ball fields. Those questions were answered. He is probably not going to attend. Maybe he'll attend in a few months. So that's also generally how the flow of the CAG is going to go. We're going to see people not as engaged or only as engaged as who they represent needs are being addressed.
okay, Damaris is adjourning us, I think, with her wave.
Yeah.
Oh, Wendy, yeah, that's a good point. Can absent people be offered the opportunity to meet with
absolutely.
them?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do that in the follow-up. And then I did mention, I said IO specifically, but we will extend the offer to others as well. But I do know IO was involved initially when we were having conversations around this, but we will reach out to all of the CAG members and invite them to, if they're interested, to participate. All
Okay.
right.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.